The United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, defines resilience as the ability of a system, community, or society exposed to hazards to resist, absorb, adapt to, and recover from the effects of a hazard in a timely and efficient manner. This process includes preserving and restoring its essential structures and functions. Community-led disaster response plays a crucial role within a resilience framework because it harnesses local knowledge, social connections, and existing community resources to deliver rapid, adaptive, and effective action during and after a disaster. Unlike a purely top-down approach, this model integrates community organizations and empowers local residents to design and implement their own preparation, response, and recovery plans. Such involvement ultimately fosters more resilient and self-sufficient communities. When Hurricane Katrina struck New Orleans in 2005, it didn't just reveal weaknesses in the levee system, it exposed deep social and racial inequities. Entire neighborhoods, especially low-income and Black communities, were left without sufficient support or resources. Historic patterns of segregation and disinvestment concentrated African Americans in some of the city's most vulnerable areas. And the government's response further deepened the injustice, disproportionately disadvantaging Black residents in the recovery process. Yet communities refused to wait for broken systems to save them. Within days of Katrina, grassroots organizations created their own systems of care and cultural revival. The Common Ground Collective set up free health clinics, legal clinics, community cleanups, and cultural hubs. Neighborhood coalitions, like the PHRF, mobilized for housing justice, coordinated return efforts, and rebuilt networks of mutual support. Other networks, like Reach NOLA, connected residents with locally tailored mental health services and leadership structures rooted in collective healing. The Community Lighthouse Project, launched in 2022, aims to create a network of solar-powered resilience hubs in New Orleans, providing support and services to residents during disasters and other times of need. The project's goal is to put a resilience hub in every neighborhood, within a 15-minute walk or drive from people's homes, and to have them run by community members, with the idea that local help may be the only help that residents can expect to see in coming disasters. Rotterdam's resilience strategy turns climate threats, flooding, heavy rain, into opportunities by integrating water management into urban design, notably through innovative water squares that buffer storms and become public recreational spaces, like Bentham Plain. This approach, formalized in plans like Rotterdam Climate Proof, 2008, and the Resilient Rotterdam Strategy, 2016-2022, focuses on making the city a sponge, with green roofs, infiltration zones, and water-resistant buildings, creating a multifunctional, climate-proof city by blending water storage with quality public life. An integrated strategy for water and climate resilience goes beyond traditional flood defense, embracing holistic climate adaptation that improves quality of life and supports biodiversity. This approach is built on several key pillars. Protection involves robust dikes, coastal defenses, and cyber-resilient water systems to safeguard communities against rising risks. Adaptation focuses on innovative solutions such as water-resistant buildings, floating structures, and green-blue infrastructure that harmonize urban development with natural ecosystems. Damage control ensures clear evacuation routes and resilient urban planning to minimize harm when extreme events occur. Finally, multifunctional design transforms essential water management infrastructure into attractive public spaces, creating environments that are both practical and enjoyable. The Water Square combines water storage with the improvement of the quality of urban public space. It also generates opportunities to create environmental quality and identity to central spaces in neighborhoods. Most of the time the Water Square is dry and used as a recreational space. In 2018, Cape Town nearly ran out of water. After 3 years of severe drought, the city was just weeks away from day zero, when reservoirs were nearly empty and the government was preparing to shut off the water taps to homes and businesses. Residents were gradually limited to 50 liters of water a day. Cape Town's water crisis heightened public awareness of water as a potential risk. This created conducive conditions for the city to develop and adopt a far-reaching strategy to build water resilience. To build a drought-resilient city, Cape Town has turned to nature-based solutions, including removing invasive plants and restoring degraded catchment areas. These efforts are not only eco-friendly, they're also much cheaper to implement than costly engineered alternatives such as groundwater exploration, desalination, removing salt from seawater, and recycling wastewater. The Greater Cape Town Water Fund was launched, a public-private initiative led by the city, the Nature Conservancy, TNC, and other partners. Through this initiative, the municipality and local businesses pool funds to pay upstream communities to restore the land that supplies the city with water. The Greater Cape Town Water Fund, GCTWF, is a collective action funding and governance mechanism that enables downstream public and private water users in the city of Cape Town to provide financial and technical support for catchment restoration alongside upstream communities. The GCTWF was initiated by the Nature Conservancy, TNC, in 2017 as a program to clear invasive species in the city of Cape Town's sub-catchment areas to improve water supply and water security, following extreme drought events between 2015 and 2018. The program also contributes to job creation, biodiversity conservation, and the restoration of indigenous ecosystems. The business model's main principle is that nature-based solutions and ecological infrastructure that address water supply problems at the source are cheaper and more cost-effective than traditional gray infrastructure solutions. In 2015, Nepal was struck by a magnitude 7.8 earthquake on April 25, followed by a major 7.3 aftershock on May 12. The disaster claimed nearly 9,000 lives, injured over 22,000 people, and destroyed or damaged more than 800,000 homes. In the absence of immediate government support, local communities led their own recovery through informal and formal, community-led reconstruction, CLR, initiatives. As state support in many urban and rural areas was delayed, residents relied on living heritage and local networks to rebuild. Non-governmental organization ActionAid Nepal, ON, and its local partners have been active in 6 affected districts in central Nepal. Women-led initiatives. Organizations help women to become central actors, mobilizing residents and managing technical teams. Heritage preservation. In sites like Gasthamandap and Patan, communities protested against unsatisfactory state plans, insisting on traditional methods and materials to maintain cultural authenticity. Skill training. Local workers were capacitated with vocational training in masonry, plumbing, and wiring to build earthquake-resilient structures. ActionAid focused on offering training and support to help the most vulnerable people gain access to land to rebuild their homes, and gain the skills they need to set up small businesses and earn a living again. When a disaster strikes, women are usually the worst affected. In many countries, women are not included in decisions that affect them, making it easy for women's specific needs to be neglected. That's why in emergencies ActionAid promotes women's leadership and works to challenge traditional power dynamics. By offering women a safe place to have discussions and enabling them to become leaders, ActionAid made sure that women are at the heart of rebuilding their communities. This means their needs will be met by the new plans for their villages, and that they develop skills and confidence to take a more active role in society going forward. When the devastating 6.3 magnitude earthquake hit Christchurch, New Zealand on the 22nd of February 2011, the landscape of the city and its communities were irrevocably changed. A grassroots organization, Project Littleton, was created and it contributed to community resilience after earthquake. The organization enabled citizen participation in disaster response, mainly through its existing timebank network. This showed the importance of pre-disaster community activities in fostering social support and learning. The Project Littleton played a strong role in providing avenues for citizen participation post-disaster. Of particular significance was the role of the Timebank in providing an already established network for active participation by citizens in the response and recovery. Other findings outline the importance of pre-disaster community activity for facilitating social support and social learning. The main finding is that already established community organizations can play an important role in responding to the unique needs of their community, and the broader processes of disaster response and recovery. Furthermore, the mechanism of timebanking provides an ideal way to encourage and support community capacities in a way that supports these disaster response outcomes. Project Littleton provides an excellent example of such a repository of community resilience that was able to improve the livelihoods of community members day to day as well as during a disaster. Project Littleton strengthens the community by connecting people to share skills. It aims to inspire and also build resilience together via events and educational opportunities. The 2019-20 Black Summer bushfires in Australia were unprecedented in scale and impact, severely stretching individuals, communities, emergency agencies, and the reconstruction industry. The Kangaroo Valley, New South Wales was hit by the Currowan Fire in January 2020. After the bushfire, a community-led recovery group quickly established a drop-in center in Kangaroo Valley within 3 days. This center became vital for affected residents, providing practical help such as finding accommodation, contacting insurers, and accessing funds, as well as emotional support. The initial organic process of developing the drop-in center was formalized through the establishment of the Kangaroo Valley Bushfire Recovery Association, KVBRA. An online GoFundMe fundraising campaign was established immediately after the fire and raised over $44,000 in a month. These funds were donated to the local volunteer rural fire brigades and to the KVBRA. The center's success was driven by committed volunteers with diverse skills and prior recovery experience. It also complemented a wildlife care initiative. The drop-in center is highlighted as a strong example of how grassroots action can deliver essential practical and psychosocial support post-disaster. The study from Malawi critically examines the extent to which community-based disaster risk reduction, CBDRR, in Malawi incorporates local knowledge, LK. Despite the assumption that CBDRR inherently facilitates LK inclusion, findings reveal significant gaps. Community-based disaster risk reduction, CBDRR, in Malawi often fails to integrate local knowledge, LK, due to I. Limited community participation practices, E. Financial and capacity constraints of NGOs and government, E. Donor-driven priorities, IV. Inadequate information sharing, and V. External stakeholders' attitudes. These barriers perpetuate a dichotomy between scientific and local knowledge, resulting in CBDRR processes that occur at communities rather than with them. Local knowledge, vital for context-specific risk understanding, remains underutilized in planning. CBDRR initiatives fall short of their potential to be truly inclusive and effective, especially in contexts like Malawi's frequent flooding. What's needed? A critical re-examination of CBDRR approaches to move beyond superficial participation. Clearer pathways for integrating local, place-based knowledge with scientific data. Addressing power dynamics and ensuring diverse community voices are heard, not just local elites. Emphasizing LK in DRR enhances project relevance, sustainability, and cost-effectiveness. The research from Canterbury highlights that well-connected communities with strong pre-existing infrastructure are better able to recover from disasters and build resilience. Communities with strong pre-existing infrastructure and networks respond more effectively, engage residents, and access external support quickly. In contrast, communities lacking local groups, leaders, or networks struggle more, especially when facing socioeconomic disadvantages. Key findings include individual well-being. Chronic stress hindered resilience, while helping others improved well-being and community contribution. Pre-existing survival skills were valuable. Community engagement. Participatory decision-making and self-governance strengthened resilience and created a sense of control, enhancing mental health and community involvement. External support. Government and volunteer assistance were critical, though some communities reported gaps in official disaster support. Conclusion. Connected communities with strong infrastructure responded better and accessed support more easily, while disadvantaged communities struggled. Key strategies for fostering resilient communities include community-led initiatives and development, strengthening community infrastructure, particularly in marginalized areas, building strong partnerships between communities and authorities. Adequate resources are essential for communities to fulfill their role. Strong, well-resourced communities cope better with crises, but they need adequate support to fulfill this role. Pre-existing survival skills help people to adapt as a community. Participants from Murray communities, Community House, Shirley and Inner City East talked about the survival skills that came from being used to hardship, especially poverty. Disasters are often perceived solely as catastrophic events with devastating consequences for affected communities. However, beyond the immediate destruction, disasters can create unique opportunities to challenge entrenched social divisions and inequalities, and to promote democratic social change. The aftermath of disasters frequently opens spaces for reimagining social structures. ActionAid Nepal's Community-Led Reconstruction Program, CLRP, exemplifies this potential. Designed to leverage reconstruction for social inclusion, the program prioritized marginalized groups such as women, Dalits, and landless people. By promoting bottom-up participation and gender balance in community reconstruction committees, CLRP sought to dismantle hierarchical norms and empower disadvantaged populations. The program achieved notable progress. Women assumed leadership roles, and landless people mobilized effectively, fostering solidarity across caste lines. These outcomes illustrate how participatory approaches can advance equity compared to traditional top-down methods. Nevertheless, structural barriers persisted. Participation among other marginalized groups, such as Adivasis, Dalits, and the elderly, remained limited due to factors like low education and social isolation. Moreover, male dominance and elite capture continued to influence leadership positions, underscoring the resilience of social hierarchies even in transformative contexts. Many newly formed community reconstruction committees, CRCs, became inactive over time, highlighting the fragility of ad hoc structures. In contrast, pre-existing local organizations, such as women's rights groups, land rights movements, and Dalit forums, proved more sustainable and effective. This suggests that enduring social change depends less on creating new institutions and more on strengthening grassroots movements and advocacy networks. NGOs can play a supportive role, but transformative reconstruction ultimately requires empowered local organizations and robust social movements. Experiences from New Zealand and Australia further emphasize the importance of community-led frameworks. Project Littleton in New Zealand leveraged its pre-existing timebank network to facilitate strong citizen participation in disaster response and recovery. Research on this initiative underscores the value of pre-disaster community activities for social support and collective learning, concluding that preparedness and community-led structures are vital for resilience. Similarly, the drop-in center established in Kangaroo Valley after bushfires became a lifeline for affected residents. It provided practical assistance, such as securing accommodation, contacting insurers, and accessing funds, alongside emotional support. The center's success was driven by committed volunteers with diverse skills and prior recovery experience, and it complemented wildlife care efforts. This case illustrates how grassroots action can deliver essential practical and psychosocial support in post-disaster contexts. Ultimately, strong, well-resourced communities cope better with crises, yet they need sustained support to fulfill this role. Building resilience is not merely a technical exercise. It is a deeply social process that demands equity, empowerment, and long-term investment in grassroots capacity. Disasters undeniably inflict harm, but they also present opportunities to challenge entrenched inequalities and foster democratic social change. Evidence from New Orleans, Nepal, New Zealand, and Australia demonstrates that participatory, community-led approaches can enhance inclusion and resilience. However, structural barriers and the fragility of newly created institutions underscore the need for robust grassroots movements, empowered local organizations, and culturally competent governance. Transformative resilience is achievable, but only when communities are given the resources, authority, and support to lead their own recovery.